Welcome back to another episode of A World Gone Mad, Season 2, Episode 68. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf. And as always, a lot of things happening in the news. So, here we go. Trump appointees appear to contradict Musk for the first time in pushback to OPM mail. This is interesting. This is a little bit of an involved story, so listen to this. There's a glimmer of hope, maybe some cracks appearing in the Trump administration. I was going to say the Musk administration, but it actually is President Elon Musk. A rift appeared to open Sunday between some of President Donald Trump's agency heads and Elon Musk, the billionaire tasked with reforming the federal government, over Musk's demand that all federal employees state their weekly accomplishments or risk termination. Now, by Sunday evening, leaders at the Pentagon, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Energy had all instructed their staff not to reply to an email that federal workers received from the Office of Personnel Management on Sunday afternoon with the subject line that said, "What did you do last week?" That's what the email asked the employees. What did you do? Justify your job. Now, some managers, including at the Department of Health and Human Services, instructed workers to comply with the request to send a list of 5 accomplishments from the past week to a generic government email address, only to later reverse course. And others simply told their staff to wait until Monday and not to reply to the note before then. Interesting. Now, the White House did not respond to a request for comment about the apparent discrepancy between Musk's directive and the guidance provided by agency heads. The scramble to discern Trump and Musk's exact intentions with the email added another layer of uncertainty to an already rattled federal workforce. Now, it seemed to set up a showdown, right, between some agency heads who were appointed by Trump himself and who are all considered loyalists to his cause, and Musk, who has paid little mind to the strict chains of command that dictate life within the federal bureaucracy. Amid the confusion, Musk showed no sign of easing up. As typical of Musk, here's what he stated in reply. "Extremely troubling that some parts of government think this is too much," he wrote Sunday on X, the platform he owns. What is wrong with them? Maybe what's wrong with them, Elon, is that nobody recognizes you as being in charge. They don't think you have any credibility. Among the first to advise against responding was Kash Patel, who was just sworn in as the FBI director at the end of last week. Now, the FBI, through the Office of the Director, is in charge of all of our review processes and will conduct reviews in accordance with FBI procedures, Patel wrote. When and if further information is required, we will coordinate the responses. For now, please pause any responses to the email. The Department of Defense is responsible for reviewing the performance of its personnel and will conduct any review in accordance with its own procedures. Acting Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness Darren Selnick wrote Sunday. When and if required, the department will coordinate responses to the email you have received from OPM. For now, please pause any response to the OPM email titled, "What did you do last week?" You notice the theme? These departments are rebelling against Elon. "It is the silliest thing I've seen in 40 years and completely usurps the chain of command," one official said. "That might be done elsewhere, but in the DOD, it's not done." Homeland Security personnel received a message from the department's Deputy Undersecretary for Management, R.D. Ailes, telling them not to respond to the email for now, according to an email obtained by CNN. DHS management will respond on behalf of the department and all of its component offices, the email dated Sunday reads. "No reporting action from you is needed at this time. For now, please pause any responses outside of your DHS chain of command. Interesting talking point. And the State Department informed its far-flung workforce that they too were not obligated to respond to the Musk email. The State Department will respond on behalf of the department. No employee is obligated to report their activities outside their department chain of command, an email sent late Saturday from the acting Undersecretary of Management said. The Department of Health and Human Services told employees Sunday morning that the email was legitimate, that staffers should read and respond to it by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday. But the agency reversed its guidance on Sunday afternoon, telling employees to pause activities in responding to the email. What the hell is going on? Musk from DOGE says, you need to respond, and if you don't, you're fired. And all the department heads are regurgitating the same statement, you do not need to respond as of now, to their employees. And finally, employees at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, National Institutes of Health, and the Food and Drug Administration, which are part of HHS, had already been told by individual agencies to wait until Monday for more guidance on how to respond. On Sunday afternoon, staffers at these divisions received the email from HHS telling them to pause responding to Elon's email. I love it. Mano-a-mano showdown with Elon and the department heads. Elon, I think I'm President Musk, and the Trump-appointed department heads. I wonder who's going to win out. The thick Plotins. Political conference in D.C. was interrupted by death threats against speakers critical of Trump. A political conference in Washington, D.C. that bills itself as the alternative to the Trump-aligned CPAC was evacuated on Sunday after a death threat made against several of its speakers who have been critical of President Donald Trump. Shortly after noon Sunday, organizers of the Principles First Summit received an email threatening several of its high-profile speakers, claiming to have planted pipe bombs on site, according to a copy of the email that the press obtained. Conference organizers and Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department also confirmed. The email threat mentioned former National Security Advisor John Bolton, former U.S. D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, who was among those who defended the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021. The email sender claimed that the two pipe bombs were placed at the JW Marriott Hotel in D.C. that was hosting the Principles First Summit. Now, the email also claimed that a pipe bomb would be placed inside the mailbox of John Bolton's home in Maryland. The organizers alerted their private security and the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia about the threat, Principles First founder Heath Mayo said in a press conference Sunday night. The hotel made the decision to evacuate the floor where the conference was held, according to Mayo. Further investigation has revealed that the threat is unfounded. This incident has concluded, the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia said in a statement to CNN. So, Wolfpack listeners, the craziness continues. Look at all the anger and threats that have occurred since Donald the Delusional became president again. As of this moment, the Pope is still in critical condition with signs of mild kidney failure, the Vatican says. Pope Francis remains in critical condition as of tonight. This is Monday night, according to the Vatican, with blood tests showing mild signs of kidney failure, which is currently under control, the Vatican said Sunday, as the 88-year-old pontiff battles pneumonia in both his lungs. It added that Francis, who was hospitalized over a week ago, has not shown further respiratory crisis since yesterday evening. Now, some of his blood tests indicate an initial mild renal failure, which is currently under control, the Vatican stated, adding that the Pope continues to be vigilant and well-oriented. Francis, who continues to receive oxygen, took part in the Holy Mass from the apartment set up on the 10th floor of Gemelli Hospital on Sunday morning, according to the statement. Those taking care of him during his hospitalization also took part. The complexity of the clinical picture and the necessary wait for pharmacological therapies to provide some feedback require that the prognosis remain reserved, the Vatican stated. Earlier on Sunday, the Vatican said Francis had received high flows of oxygen after suffering a respiratory crisis, but had a peaceful night in the hospital. The Vatican said Pope Francis will remain in the hospital following his pneumonia diagnosis in both lungs, and did not deliver the weekly Angelus prayer Sunday for only the third time in his almost 12-year papacy. So they're still watching Pope Francis. He's 88 years old, so it's hour by hour, day by day. President Zelensky of Ukraine says he is ready to quit if it brings peace, and he pushes back on the U.S. demand for Ukrainian minerals. The Ukrainian president, Zelensky, said he was ready to resign as a leader if it meant it would bring peace to his country, suggesting he could swap it, stepping down, for NATO membership, while also pushing back against the U.S. demands for 50% of their critical minerals and rare natural resources as part of the negotiations to end the war. Asked at a press conference Sunday if he was ready to quit if it ensures peace for Ukraine, Zelensky said, "Hey, if it guarantees peace for Ukraine, if you really need me to resign, I am ready. I can exchange it for NATO." Actually, a very coy move by President Zelensky, because NATO membership is critical to Ukraine, although Russia, and of course now Donald the King, will never allow it. So Wolfpack listeners, here's another question for you. That only a handful are answering the questions that I ask each episode, and I really wish more of you would participate and please reply. How critical do you as a listener do you feel it's necessary for NATO to have Ukraine as a member? Give me your thoughts. Email me at wolfpacklistener@gmail.com. Send me a comment on Blue Sky. I'm over there. You can join if you're not already there. Love to hear from you. I'm asking to hear from you. Hope more of you take advantage and actually reply to these questions each episode. Thank you. There's a big major shakeup at MSNBC if you haven't heard. The new head of MSNBC cancels Joy Reid's evening show as part of the programming shakeup. Joy Reid will host her final evening news show with MSNBC this week as part of a slate of programming changes by Rebecca Cutler, the network's new president, sources familiar with the matter told CNN. Now, according to sources, Cutler plans to replace The Readout, which is aired at 7 p.m. Eastern Time since 2020, with co-hosts from The Weekend, Simone Sanders Townsend, Michael Steele, and Alicia Menendez. The Weekend is a two-hour show airing on Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, improved total viewership during its time slot by 35%. Despite the change in programming, MSNBC is maintaining its progressive roots with President Donald Trump back in office. Since its inauguration, MSNBC's viewership has been up 77% during primetime hours and 34% in total day viewers. A source told CNN that Cutler is expected to announce additional programming changes to multiple MSNBC shows. Another change, Alex Wagner, who hosts Alex Wagner Tonight, Tuesday through Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, as a substitute for the Rachel Maddow show, will not return to the primetime slot since she's now taking on special assignment coverage. A source says Wagner will remain with the network as a correspondent. Joy Reid is not doing something different. She's literally leaving the network or being forced out. Jen Psaki, whose show launched in 2023 with the help of Cutler, will occupy one of the primetime hours during the week, sources said. Inside with Jen Psaki is currently the network's most watched weekend program. Psaki was a political contributor for CNN from 2017 to 2020, served as the White House press secretary under former President Joe Biden. It's possible that Psaki could take the 9 p.m. Eastern time slot after Rachel Maddow returns to 1 day a week, wrapping up her first 100 days covering the Trump's presidency. And according to Rachel tonight, she said that's what's happening. And Rachel actually had I won't say a blistering reply to what they're doing at her own network, but she wasn't thrilled that people like Joy Reid and others were being forced out. So this should be interesting. Be aware, MSNBC is changing their programming. Well, it's official. Donald Trump has started banning books. I'm not joking. Last week, he ordered schools on military bases or run by the military to remove from school shelves any books that discussed equity or discrimination. And one of the first books to be banned is called, ready for it? First book to be banned, one of them from Donald Trump, Freckle-Faced Strawberry, a children's book written by actress Julianne Moore that tells a story. Here we go. This is dangerous. This is why Donald, the delusional one, is banning this book. This tells a story of a young girl learning to love her freckles. Yes, you heard me say that correctly. They also banned No Truth Without Ruth, a children's book about the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is despicable and dystopian, and it requires us to respond boldly and with absolute clarity. By the way, I have a TikTok video I'm doing now in the last couple of days. I brought it back. It's called From the Wolf's Den. So go check out on YouTube and TikTok, From the Wolf's Den. And I give you a list of books, which I'll give you now, that I suggest you read if you haven't already before Donald bans those books. Okay? So I also ask you, after watching that short video from the Wolf's Den and after listening to this, to tell me what book titles do you feel that could be banned next from Donald that are worth reading. Let other listeners know. And here's what's being banned by Donald, or what could be banned by Donald. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Where they burn books. Sound familiar? Is that what's next, Donald? Banning books and then burning books? Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Animal Farm, George Orwell. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. We're getting to this. And the biggest one, Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Those are the books that I think that could be on Donald's list. I'm not saying they are, but could be on Donald's list to be banned. What are your books you'd like to add to the title that I just gave you? What do you think Donald will go after? What type of books that talk about diversity, and other weird topics that Donald thinks is wrong? Let me know. I want to bring to your attention something you may or may not have caught. Hopefully you did. If not, I advise you to check it out. Jane Fonda, that's right, Jane Fonda gives politically charged speech at the SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards. She said, woke just means you give a damn about other people. Jane Fonda persevered over some audio issues Sunday night to encourage activism at the SAG Awards, the SAG Awards. Fonda received the SAG Lifetime Achievement Award at the event, and the 87-year-old actress reminded the room it's okay to be a late bloomer as long as you don't miss the flower show. I'm a late bloomer, she said. This is the flower show, gesturing to her, statuette. Yeah, I love acting. We get to open people's minds to new ideas, take them beyond what they understand of the world, help them laugh when things are tough, like now. The woman, who is as much an activist as a star, then reminded the world, in her political passions, including saying that she is a big believer in unions. And this is really important right now, she says, when workers' power is being attacked and community is being weakened. Fonda then pointed out that the SAG, which stands for Screen Actors Guild, is different from other unions since actors don't create something tangible, but rather create empathy. She shared some of her views on acting, including, while you may hate the behavior of your character you're doing, you have to understand and empathize with the traumatized person you're playing in your role, right? Using the example, among others, of Oscar nominee Sebastian Stan, who's starring as Donald Trump in the film The Apprentice. Make no mistake, Fonda said, empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means you give a damn about other people. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. And Fonda, and an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump, also made reference to current events. A whole lot of people are going to be really hurt by what is happening, what is coming our way, she continued. She said, and even if they're of a different political persuasion, we need to call upon our empathy and not judge, but listen from our hearts, welcome them into our tent, because we are going to need a big tent to resist successfully what's coming at us. The two-time Oscar winner made references to defining events in history like the Civil Rights Movement, and added, we are in our documentary moment right now. She ended by offering words of encouragement, saying, there will be beauty, there still always will be beauty, and there will be an ocean of truth for us to swim in on the other side. Please check out the eloquent speech that Jane Fonda gave. I believe you can listen to it on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, you can catch it on YouTube. I will be back again in 2 days with another episode of A World Gone Mad. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf, sitting in a room, talking to myself. Stay hopeful.